What if I told you that Chevrolet built an engine so powerful, so radical, that even NASCAR wanted it erased from history? An engine so ahead of its time that Chevy had to lie about its true power. So dangerous that secret blueprints were rumored to have been burned, and so secretive that even Ford couldn't stop it. This is the story of the Chevrolet 396 Porcupine engine, a banned beast that refused to die. Buckle up, because we're about to expose the shocking truth behind the 396 Porcupine engine. A story of innovation, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of speed. If you love rare muscle car history, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around till the very end, because this one is going to blow your mind. The birth of the 396 Big Block, the mid-1960s, a time when raw horsepower ruled the streets and the racetrack. Ford had its 427 FE, Chrysler had the 426 HEMI, and Chevrolet, they had something brewing in the shadows. In 1965, Chevy unleashed the 396 Big Block 5.8, a powerhouse that would go on to define an era. But this wasn't just another engine. This was the foundation of something bigger. It packed canted valve heads, an aggressive camshaft, and enough power to shake the pavement. It first appeared in the Corvette, Chevelle, and El Camino, but Chevy wasn't showing all its cards just yet, because behind the scenes, a more radical version was being developed. But then, something happened. An engine that should have dominated mysteriously vanished from the racing scene. Was it banned? Did Chevrolet kill it on purpose? Or was there something even bigger at play? Stay with me, because the answers are just getting started. The mysterious banned 396. The 396 was powerful, but some say there was an even more extreme version Chevrolet didn't want you to know about. A version that was so ahead of its time, NASCAR wouldn't allow it on the track. By 1963, GM had already pulled out of factory-backed racing, but that didn't stop their engineers. Secretly, they were working on something monstrous, a high-performance 396 variant that insiders claim was too powerful for NASCAR. But then, it disappeared. Some say Chevy buried it to avoid breaking NASCAR's rules. Others claim it was quietly tested in underground racing circles, and a few believe it never really went away at all. But was the 396 truly outlawed, or was it something else entirely? The truth is even crazier than you think. Stick around, because what happened next changed muscle car history forever. Chevrolet's NASCAR dominance in the 427 takeover. To understand the real reason the 396 never got its moment in NASCAR, we need to talk about Chevy's racing dominance. By the mid-60s, Chevrolet was a wrecking machine. Drivers like Junior Johnson, David Pearson, and Buck Baker were racking up win after win. But while the 396 was a beast, Chevrolet had something even bigger in mind. Enter the 427 Mystery Motor. It was the bigger, badder brother of the 396, built for pure domination. And when it hit the track, it was unstoppable. NASCAR, already cracking down on experimental engines, wasn't happy. And Chevy, they knew they had to pick their battles. Instead of pushing the outlawed 396, they went all in on the 427, a decision that cemented their racing legacy. But that raises a huge question. If Chevrolet had something even more powerful in the 396, why let it fade into history? Did they secretly underrate its power? Did they lie about its true potential? That's exactly what we're exposing next. Like, subscribe, and keep watching, because the real cover-up is about to be revealed. Was the 396 too powerful for NASCAR? Now let's tackle the big question. Was the 396 Porcupine engine really banned for being too powerful? Here's what we know. In the early 60s, NASCAR wasn't just about speed, it was about control. They had strict homologation rules, meaning if an engine wasn't in a production car, it wasn't allowed on the track. Chevrolet had already pushed the limits with the 427 Mystery Motor, and NASCAR took notice. So when whispers of a high-performance 396 began to surface, officials didn't hesitate. Some say NASCAR shut it down before it ever got a chance. Others believe Chevrolet made the call themselves, knowing that the bigger, more race-ready 427 would be their golden ticket. But here's where it gets even more suspicious. Chevy had a history of downplaying their most powerful engines to keep them under the radar. So, Was the 396 really banned? Or was it just too good for the competition to handle? Keep watching, because what comes next might be the biggest cover-up in Chevrolet history. Did Chevrolet lie about the horsepower? If there's one thing muscle car fans know, it's that manufacturers lied a lot about horsepower back in the day. And Chevrolet, they were no exception. Officially, the L78 396 was rated at 375 horsepower. But real-world dyno tests, they tell a very different story. Some claim the engine was secretly pushing over 425 horsepower, if not more. So why the deception? Two reasons: insurance and corporate rules. Back then, muscle cars with higher horsepower ratings meant higher insurance premiums, which meant fewer buyers. And Chevrolet didn't want that. Then there was GM's internal policy, which limited mid-size cars to a max of 400 cubic inches. If the 396 was making too much power, it could start stepping on the toes of bigger engines, like the 427 and 454. So did Chevy intentionally underrate the 396 to keep it within corporate guidelines? Or were they hiding its true potential to give racers an underground advantage? Either way, one thing's clear. The 396 was way more powerful than Chevy let on. And we're not done yet, because now we're diving into the biggest mystery of them all. Why the 396 never reached its full potential? The 396 should have been a legend. It had the power, the technology, and the reputation to be Chevy's ultimate street and track engine. So why didn't it reach its full potential? The answer: corporate politics, racing restrictions, and the rise of even bigger engines. First, GM's 1963 racing ban forced Chevrolet to step back from factory-backed racing. That meant engines like the high-performance 396 variant got pushed aside. Second, NASCAR's changing rules made it harder for experimental engines to see competition. The 396 never got a fair shot at proving itself on the track. And third, the arrival of the 427 and 454 big blocks meant the 396 was no longer Chevy's priority. But here's the twist. The 396 never really disappeared. In fact, its technology lived on inside the very engines that replaced it. And some say Chevy had even wilder plans for it, plans that were buried before they could ever hit the streets. The legacy of the 396 Porcupine engine. So after everything, the secrecy, the bans, the corporate politics, what happened to the 396? Did it fade into obscurity? Not even close. Because while the 396 itself may have been sidelined, its DNA lived on. First, the 427. When Chevrolet unleashed the 427 big block, it was game over for the competition. This was the engine that dominated NASCAR and drag racing, proving that Chevy's big block technology was unstoppable. Then came the 454th. By the 1970s, muscle cars were bigger, meaner, and more powerful than ever. And guess what? The 454 was just a bigger, angrier version of the 396. This engine became the king of street performance, powering legends like the Chevelle SS 454 and Corvette LS6. And even after muscle cars started dying out, the big block refused to quit. Chevrolet engineers took the same big block foundation and pushed it even further, creating the 8.1-liter 496 Vortec, the last big block evolution used in Chevy trucks. From racetracks to drag strips to workhorse trucks, all of them carried the spirit of the 396. But the story doesn't end there. Because today, the 396 is more than just an engine. It's a symbol of power, of rebellion, of what could have been if corporate politics didn't get in the way. Ask any muscle car enthusiast, and they'll tell you. The 396 was the underdog that deserved more, and that's exactly why it still has a cult following decades later. Gearheads still hunt them down, rebuild them, and bring them back to life. Because the 396 was never really dead. It was just waiting for the right hands to resurrect it. And who knows, maybe the best chapter of its story is yet to be written. You just uncovered one of Chevrolet's biggest secrets, but trust me, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The world of muscle cars, forbidden engines, and buried automotive history is deeper than you think. And if you love this kind of raw, untold truth, then you're in the right place. Here's the deal. We don't just talk cars, we bring them back to life. We dig into the stories they don't want you to know. The engines that were too powerful, too radical, or just too ahead of their time. So if you're a real gearhead, someone who respects the glory days of raw horsepower, then hit that subscribe button right now. Because next time, we're unlocking another chapter of forgotten automotive history. And trust me, you won't want to miss it. Until then, keep your foot down, your revs high, and your passion even higher. This is the Auto Bureau, and we'll see you in the next one.